Hey, everyone, and welcome to the Barn and Beyond podcast, a podcast about everything Barn Sanctuary and beyond. Barn Sanctuary is a 501c3 nonprofit based out of Chelsea, Michigan. Our mission is Barn Sanctuary rescues farmed animals and inspires people to embrace a plant-based lifestyle. We envision a world in which farmed animals are seen as individuals who are treated with compassion and where plant-based, sustainable alternatives replace the use of animals for food and products. We are here in Old Barn at Barn Sanctuary. So you might hear some gates clinking, you might hear some barn doors opening and shutting, but that is all part of, what Barn Sanctuary is, because this is a working sanctuary and there's people here all the time working with the residents. So welcome to our home and the residents' home. We hope you enjoy the podcast. I'm your host, Chase DeBack, and I'm here with Lori and Dan from Barn Sanctuary. Lori is our executive director, and Dan is obviously the founder of Barn Sanctuary.
And board chair.
Hey, everyone.
And board chair.
And board chair.
And he's now board chair.
It's still officially a part
Yeah.
of Barn Sanctuary.
So yeah.
Board chair from down under.
Yeah, you are now living in Australia.
Yes.
What part of Australia are you living in?
South Australia, Adelaide. It's
Adelaide,
very
okay.
hot, and I know it's like, 20 degrees here.
It's about 20 degrees
and-
today. It's a
and-
little warmer. We have a
It's
little bit of a
probably
heat
105.
heat wave going, and it's like probably maybe 25, 26
Yeah.
today.
Yes.
So
It's been 0 to 5 for
Yeah.
a while.
105 in Adelaide.
Wow.
And it's
Oh,
crazy.
wow.
And they do Celsius there, so I can never really ever do the
You don't know,
conversions. It
yeah.
just confuses me.
was it tough when you came back here and it was just freezing cold? Like, did it feel extra cold coming from the hundreds to then coming back to the teens?
Yeah, it was tough. Definitely getting off the airplane, I was okay. But when I woke up the next morning, I was, seasonal depression's real, people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially in February. And
But then you come and see the animals, and they just make you feel better. And
They do.
They heal you.
Well, and right now with you where you're at, you're in the long days, right?
Oh yeah.
And then you come back here
right.
and it's the shortened days where
My biological clock is just off.
yeah.
Yeah. And I, it's the whole equilibrium. I think my brain is just a little off right now because I'm on the other side of the world.
Sure.
I think Australia, I don't know how much further. It's pretty close to Antarctica, which is insane when you think about that.
That is pretty insane.
Yeah. Everyone pause and think about that. That's insane.
That's insane.
Anyways, and it's just, it's so weird. And it's so, you feel like you're away from the rest of the earth.
Mm-hmm.
And the craziest fact is that there are more people in California than all of Australia.
That is pretty crazy to think about.
Yeah.
Well, and it's one big island, obviously, but like all of the population is on the coast too. Like there's no population like in inner Australia just because it's like all desert pretty much.
Yeah. It's all dry desert, super hot, not a lot of resources.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of people that still live far and in between.
I have a very Australia story of when I was there on in between my junior and senior year of high school with the people to people trip that I told you about. And they put us on the back of a pickup truck with like a bunch of high school kids.
Yeah.
Drove us miles out into
That's safe.
What do they call it? Like the
outback.
The
The
outback.
bush.
The
The
bush.
bush. The
Yes.
bush.
Drove us miles out into the bush where we came to this man's home, which was logs and a tarp, and he lived out there with his half dingo, and he made
hybrid.
didgeridoos.
What?
Didgeridoos. That's what he did out there. He made didgeridoos.
Sounds like moonshine for Australians.
Well, it's the
It's
didgeridoos, the
musical
long
instrument.
oh, wow.
the
Never mind.
long-
Not
Yeah.
alcohol.
Yeah, not alcohol. They didn't take a bunch
saw-
of high
it sounded like a
schoolers
juice
to the bush liquor.
The age is, you can drink at 18 out there. Crazy.
True. We were not
Okay,
18
sorry.
at the time.
Family safe
And
podcast.
where several of my classmates that were on the trip with me bought didgeridoos out
Oh, that's
there
cool.
in the middle of nowhere.
They make that dong.
Yeah,
type.
that it's. I couldn't play it.
Yeah,
but some
that's
people
really
could.
cool.
Yeah,
Very Australian sounding instrument.
Yeah, I didn't realize that.
But isn't that like such a Australia like?
Oh, that's an Australian story for sure.
Yeah.
My daughter, she goes to this kids outdoor group at Cleveland Wildlife Park, and it's they call it bush buddies.
Yeah.
When you get to go play with other kids
fun.
in the bush with your buddies, which are the wildlife there.
Yeah.
It's really cool. It's exciting.
The other takeaway I had from my time there was wallabies are like squirrels, only huge, but they're everywhere, like squirrels. Like,
Oh yeah, I confuse them as kangaroos sometimes.
Yeah.
Just because they look like a kangaroo. Marsupials.
yeah,
And so
but you see them everywhere.
yeah. Just like kangaroos. It's like the deer here in Michigan.
Yeah,
Is you see the kangaroos. You see some koalas.
yeah.
But
And they stink. Koalas are very
yeah,
smelly.
I haven't gotten so close enough to like
Yeah. We did. We went to one
a
of
good
the
whiff.
like yeah,
use this mic for some.
ASMR.
yeah. We had some sort of koala interaction, but
Yeah.
it was illegal to touch them or anything.
Yeah.
We learned about them, and you
Highly
could.
protected. They shut down the freeway when they cross the road.
Yes. Yes.
Well, and Australia has some of the, I would say, like harshest animal rights. Well, not harshest, but like they have very strict animal welfare laws there, don't they? Like it's some of the most or some of the best animal welfare laws like in the world.
Yeah. They actually have a political party for the animals. I always forget the name of it, but I think
It's
the Animal Justice Party.
Yeah, it's something along those lines.
Yeah, and so in each state of Australia, there's representatives of the Animals Justice Party, and they're actually, it's not like they're an independent here in the States, and it's like you usually never get voted on if you're
Right.
independent or anything. But like, no, people from multiple sorts of parties can get voted on and help influence some laws for the animals.
Well, and they are actively working close with like another party there too, right? Like they kind of make deals with another party in Australia to kind of pass some of those animal welfare laws and stuff like
Totally.
that too, right?
Yeah, and I would say Australia, in Australia, to Australians, they feel like they're like politically divided, but it's clearly not as extreme as, the
Right.
United States.
Sure.
Everyone, a lot of laws get passed, and sometimes a lot of laws don't get passed in Australia just because everyone agrees or disagrees on the same thing. Or it's quite interesting.
Chase, what are some of the policies you've heard put into place that you admire and would like to see implemented elsewhere?
Well, one thing that I love that's going on in Australia is the Farm Transparency Project.
Yes.
That happens there, and it's an organization that they list all of the active farms in Australia. They produce videos that come from the farm, and they're active in getting policy change in Australia made. And I just think that overall program is a great way to just let people know what's going on and give them a reality into what the animal farming looks like, the degree of what is going on there, the numbers and everything like that. It's something that we kind of have here in the United States, but there are also laws here in the United States that don't allow us to go like into farms and film
ag gag
the
laws.
ag gag laws and stuff like that. And so I really like that as far as Australia goes. They're a little bit more transparent with what happens as far as like, the farming and slaughterhouses and stuff that.
When I first got to Adelaide last year, they were actually in South Australia filming at piggeries.
Yeah.
In recurring piggeries that will have a fire every single year around the same time or something like that. I don't know, it's just crazy stuff. And so the footage, the cool thing about them is that their footage is free for anyone to use for their advocacy work, as long as you just tag them and give them credit. They want everyone to be able to see this type of footage. It's hard footage, but there's a place for it for people to see at times. And so it reminds me, I know Mercy for Animals here in the States have undercover investigators and stuff like that, but they are trying to get like ag gag type laws in Australia.
Well, that's where the Animal Justice Party comes in, because they can try and fight
Right.
to
Yeah.
get those knocked down, and so they don't have the ag gag laws.
Yeah.
So while we have Dan here, the founder of Barn Sanctuary, let's talk a little bit about the story of Barn Sanctuary, Dan. Let me know, or let us know, what was the motivation behind starting Barn Sanctuary, and maybe even go a little bit further. What was it like for you in the initial years where you had the idea to come up with Barn Sanctuary?
Yeah. So back in 2015, 2016, I was living in Austin, Texas, working in technology. My partner at the time, Kelly Holt, who's a friend to this day, helped me conceive the idea of Barn Sanctuary.
Nice.
She actually, I remember we sat down at a dinner, and she was just like, "Hey Dan, I'm going vegan," you know, and I think she's been vegetarian since she was like 16. And at that same time, I'm like, totally, because you know we live with each other, cook the same foods. Also, like, you know, she's a very like prominent person, and so I was like, I'm not gonna fight you on that at all. And then at that time, I remember the exact dish I was eating at that time, and I don't want to say it because it just makes
Well,
me
let's be
feel shame.
let's be transparent. Let's
It just
like,
make me
what-
at the time. Well, I just want everyone to know. At that time, I was eating meat, and I think
Yeah.
it sucks. I was eating duck
Oh,
at that
okay.
time. Yeah, I know. I hate saying that. But yeah, that should be a little snippet. I was eating duck.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
no.
it's something that we've all. I mean, I came from eating meat.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
ate meat for 23 years before I made the realization. How old were you when you made the switch?
Man, 2016. I don't know, 25, 26.
And so when she came up with that idea, you didn't have any pushback at all. Like it was something that you were gung ho for doing.
Exactly. I wasn't gonna jump on board, but like as time went on, we were cooking plant-based dishes at home, and then we also adopted a dog named Luna, who's a Great Dane, who reminds me of like a mini cow. And then you know I watched Cowspiracy on Netflix, and
Yeah.
you know I think she was very strategic on sliding these documentaries with me. And then I remember I was out on a jog or something like that, and I saw a cow, and I touched the cow's head across the barbed wire fence, you know,
Right.
and at that time I was just like, oh my gosh. And then I went to go see the first Jurassic World or something like that, and the
The
T-Rex.
goat with the goat. Are you gonna
I don't
say-
remember. I don't know if it was yeah, that, and then also the T-Rex was just killing for sport,
Oh,
and I was just
yeah.
like, that's awful.
Right.
And I was like, I went cold turkey.
Yeah.
After that movie, but it led up to like a number of things. But that's when also I picked, and I love learning and trying to figure out, you know, how we can make the world a better place. And so I picked up a book by Gene Bauer, and it was about his journey with the farm sanctuary that they created, and that's been around for 40, 50 years now. 50
40.
years.
Yeah.
40.
Today's the 40. This year is the 40th
Yeah, okay, so
anniversary.
30
Yep.
years when I, you know, first came up with Barn Sanctuary, and I was just like, oh man. And so like a lot of Barn Sanctuary's guiding principles in the beginning and stuff came from Farm Sanctuary because they're like the OG.
Oh yeah.
And Gene Bauer to this day, like we're friends now. We've had a beer. Like he's good. He's just a great guy.
Yeah.
Always
And he's
available.
A great advocate as well.
Huge, great advocate on the Jon Stewart show. Like he'll debate people, and you know he's just very level-headed, and yeah, a great advocate to this day.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's a huge like role model for me.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you had this idea come in after you decided to go plant-based, obviously.
Yes.
So how long after you went vegan did Barn Sanctuary come along?
That was probably like 8 months, 6 to 8 months.
Okay.
I remember, I think it was around March, April. I was actually part of this group called the New Leaders Council in Austin, and they teach you about politics in the area, about how you can be a good service member to your community, and they teach you business. And so I had to do a capstone project at the same time. And
Okay.
you know, this capstone project, I was just like, well, I'm gonna do. Because I had barn sanctuary, or just a sanctuary idea in my head. I was like, "This is a perfect opportunity to work on a business plan for a sanctuary." And so I created it. And as I was working through this capstone, I was like, screw it, I'm going to do this. I think I'm going to do this. I should probably call my dad. And so I gave him a call, kind of just threw out the idea of it. And, you know, it wasn't a yes right away. I mean, I think also he wanted me to come back home too.
Sure.
Yeah.
But also he's like, you can afford this? Like, you know, you have to pay the feed. And, you know, I think with that generation, you know, donating wasn't in the back of their mind.
Yeah.
And the idea of a charity and, you know, raising funds. And I was like, well, let's see how we go. And so I created just a founding donor campaign with a sticker that just says founding donor Barn Sanctuary. This is after we got nonprofit status, which I was surprised came back within a month. And so I actually have a picture of me with the actual like approval letter with Luna in it. And
And that was in 2016.
2016.
Okay. Yeah.
And then, you know, that campaign raised like a few $1,000s.
Nice.
Yeah, which I mean, when you first start off, there are no rescued residents, but you have this idea. And at that time, I reached out to a couple people in the sanctuary community here in Michigan. One of which I remember Christine Wagner and Alicia, our shelter director. We sat down. I think I was over at the Coney Island, and just getting ideas and trying to figure out, is this feasible? And that's when I learned about Sasha Farm down the road. And so and just realizing there are sanctuaries all throughout the United States. At that time, not as many as there are today. So it was it was a snowball effect that just kept building. And then for about a year, I worked remotely. I would travel up here like every month for a week or two to help on the farm and then work at my tech job. Then I moved here and just worked remotely. But we actually, from when we got nonprofit status, which was like May 27th or something like that, then we rescued Cora and Henry that August.
Oh, okay.
Were they the first two residents?
They were the first two residents, yeah.
And then when you raised that initial couple $1,000s, did that show your dad that
Proof of concept.
This could be possible?
It could be possible.
And he got on board after that?
Yes. And then through the year of like 2016, 2017, that's when I really learned a lot about the power of storytelling, because this farm has been in the family for 140, 150 years. And I never actually lived in Chelsea, Michigan.
Okay.
I was born here, lived here until I was 2, then moved away.
Okay.
I lived in the burbs in every city basically we lived in. And I would always come back here to the farm for summer and winter vacation to see my grandparents. And so I've never really had that experience around farm animals. And so I was documenting my first time experiences with the animals, which was powerful because the amount of people that have never been around farm animals is shocking, especially for people that, eat animals.
Right.
They imagine if they came over and petted, a cow, just like they would with their dog or cat or their horse or anything like that. And so
part of the importance of animal sanctuaries is to allow people to get those connections with the animals, and so they can make that connection. Like, hey, maybe this. It's
the perfect advocacy tool in a way where they can feel a positive emotion by being around these animals and seeing them as an individual, because they'll understand that each single one has a different personality. I remember there's a story of a guy, don't know where he ended up in his journey of going plant-based or seeing how sentient these individuals are, but when we rescued Andy the cow, he followed that journey, and he was a $50 a month sponsor. He flew up here for one of our, I don't know if it was Barn Bash or Moonster Mash, or it was just a tour. He flew up here just because he had to see Andy.
Wow.
And he told me, he's like, I still eat steak, but I have to come see Andy. And I know for a fact, after he saw Andy, something got planted in his head where hopefully he's either minimizing the amount of animals or just if he's advocating for Andy, or he's telling the story of two people, telling people about this amazing cow from Barn Sanctuary. Hopefully, I hope he continued that journey of being plant-based. But
and there's a lot of stories like that come from sanctuaries. Like when I was working with Dominion Sanctuary over in Grand Rapids, I was on the board of directors there, and we had an event that we would do every year called Pigs and Kids, and it was kind of like almost like a summer camp kind of thing. And we would do it a couple of weekends out of the summer where we would bring groups of kids in. We would have little fun activities like arts and crafts things based around pigs. Because Dominion was primarily like a pig sanctuary. And they would get a chance to like feed the pigs, be around the pigs. They'd pet their bellies and stuff. Yeah. And I remember almost after every event that we had, the kids were like, I don't want to eat pigs anymore. Yeah. I don't, and they made that connection within a couple of hours of just spending time with the animals and seeing, that they are like their cats and dogs at home and they have personalities like that. And it's a really powerful thing to be able to let people in, get them connected with the animals, and so they can make that realization for themselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
100%. Marla and Durden, particularly for me, are like relationship goals.
Yeah.
Like their love story and their commitment to each other and the way that they take care of each other. And, Marla and Durden are, Marla is a full-size pig, and Durden is half potbelly, half full.
He's an interesting, he's an interesting mix. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I'm coming up on 8 months here,
Hey, that's
Yeah.
awesome.
I think. Yeah. And I've had multiple powerful moments with our residents that completely have changed a lot of how I operate day to day. Yeah.
How has that process been for you? Because and for everybody who doesn't know, Lori just started with us as the executive director. You said, what was it?
It's about 8 months, yeah.
So, and so and you haven't worked with any sanctuaries in the past.
No.
You have an amazing nonprofit
Yes. Background.
Background.
and
Professionalism.
right.
Yes.
And so, but with this being your
Professionalist.
first time working at an animal sanctuary,
Yeah.
how has that transition been for you coming in and kind of seeing how we operate, and then coming from maybe an outside perspective where you weren't vegan before, but now you're
I
starting
am.
to move into it?
Yes. Well, I guess, can I share why I applied for the job?
Sure,
And like how
absolutely,
we got here?
absolutely.
So I have a lot. I went to school in DC many years ago, and got my degree, and actually went right into a federal government job out of college, which being studying.
CIA.
No.
She can't say. She can't say.
But having studied political science, like I went to American University, and all of us poli-sci kids at American University wanted government jobs, and
Definitely sounds like the CIA.
yeah. So I went into the federal government, worked for the federal government for about a year, and had this aha moment with a supervisor of mine, where we were, fine lining this grant approval we were trying to get for spending, and I worked on child and maternal health outcomes, and I was just going back and forth with these lawyers, wordsmithing, and the supervisor of mine at the time said, "Don't you love being a bureaucrat?" And it was like everything stopped for me, and I was like, no, I don't. And within a month, I moved back to Michigan.
Oh wow.
And it was 2008. So everybody was like, don't move back to Michigan because the recession happened and everything. I shouldn't have. No, I'm aging myself. But I moved back to Michigan, and my family here and everybody were like, we're glad you're coming home, but there's no jobs. You're not going to get a job. And I was like, I'll get a job. And I set my sights on nonprofits. And I came back to Michigan, and I started at the United Way for Southeastern Michigan, which was phenomenal for boot camp on the ground. What is happening right now in our world and in our communities and the whole nonprofit sector within this Southeastern Michigan. And so that launched me. But then I ended up spending much of my career in safety and security, focused on a lot of human trafficking, sex trafficking of children, domestic violence, sexual assault, but then also nonprofit management, nonprofit leadership, and a lot of fundraising. So I had a really diverse career. Love nonprofits. New nonprofits was for me because I felt that I could make direct impact and wasn't just, and could be a blockade or a fixer of all the bureaucracy that kept things from happening, that kept real change from happening. I was also always an animal lover. If you would have asked me as a kid, like I remember in 3rd grade, we had to give a speech on what we wanted to be when we grew up. And I got like 2nd place in my 3rd grade class for my speech about wanting to be a marine biologist.
Oh, nice.
And how much I respected Jacques Cousteau.
Oh yeah.
And specifically calling out Jacques Cousteau and everything I learned from him, I think was why
Calypso.
I did well. Yes, Calypso. And so I, have always been an animal lover. I had been in the nonprofit space and nonprofit leadership and nonprofit fundraising and development for a very long time. And I was getting really burnt out because of, the level of violence in a lot of the work that I was doing and the level of need. And I had seen the recruitment posting for the opening here at Barn Sanctuary. And in complete honesty, I kind of jokingly said to my family and my kids, I was like, wouldn't this be interesting for me to do? And I was like, it would be like I was connecting to the little girl in
Oh
me,
yeah.
you know, that part of me that I had let go of or forgotten about. And it was my daughter I have 4 children, and one of my daughters is a huge animal lover. They all are animal lovers, but she's like,
Yeah,
fully
for sure.
passionate. She likes to come here as much as possible. She was like, Mom, you have to. This is my dream job. You have to. And her excitement got me more excited because I started to remember that part of me that had loved animals so deeply. Like, I was an only child on both sides of my family. On both sides, I was the first grandchild. I was the first grandchild for 5 years until my brother came and ruined it for me. And my only friends were our dogs and my grandparents' dogs. They had like 3 dogs. My other grandparents had a dog. We had 2 dogs. And like that, I had no cousins my age. Like
Yeah.
I would hang out with the dogs. And so my daughter really helped me reconnect that. I also thought it was a long shot when I applied.
Really?
I was like, they're not going to take me seriously because I didn't have any animal
Like with those-
rescue
right,
sanctuary background. I do have some history with environmental justice, but that is pretty dated at this point. And so I didn't know that I would be a strong candidate. But as I got to know everybody, I started to realize, I needed the healing space and the kind of that connection to that girl part of me that Barn was offering.
Sure.
And Barn needed somebody with a lot of nonprofit experience and leadership experience to help us, really elevate into the next 10 years because we're celebrating our 10
Yeah.
years.
10 years.
And we're elevating into the next decade.
Yeah.
And so it almost came together as a match, made, I think just really miraculously.
For sure.
But most importantly, my daughter quizzed me constantly before all of my interviews,
Really?
watched the Saved by the Barn show, and would be like, do you even know Ginger's story? Are you even
Oh,
ready?
gosh.
And
She knew the story.
should have brought her to
she
the
knew
interview.
the stories. She knew the stories. And she was even like, if you don't get the job, can I apply for the job?
Oh,
She would be a great executive director.
She would be. She would be. She's very direct.
she's in training.
She is. She is. But it was so nice after I started. I brought the whole family out for a tour. And my daughter and your dad, Tom, had a really sweet moment where Luella, which was funny because we didn't know about Saved by the Barn until I was in the interview process.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
she would like ate it up.
Yeah,
Just ate it
for
up.
sure.
And so they were in they were right by Ginger. And and Luella said to Tom, how did she put it? I'm just so amazed with what you and your son have done. You must be so proud. And she goes, and it is my lifelong dream to meet Ginger.
Oh, how old's your daughter?
She is 9.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. She was 8 then, but she's 9 now.
Unbelievable.
And so she
Yeah.
got to meet.
Yeah. And then
Ginger.
Tom was like, come
My
here.
dad start crying. Jeez, I would.
I won't comment on that, but let's
That's
just
amazing.
say she every time she comes here, she walks away with something your dad has given her or gifted
Yeah.
her or some special, like she's definitely melted your dad's heart.
Aw.
And she thinks he's the greatest too. So they have a cute little,
Oh, that's great.
yeah.
Glad to hear that.
Yeah. She does like to come.
So being here for the 8 months and having that background with a love for the marine animals and your background with nonprofit work, coming into Barn, how did that then change the mindset coming from, one place to then coming to this vegan sanctuary where, we're rescuing farmed animals and stuff? How did that change the inner workings of the
Yeah.
mind for you?
Yeah. And it has really been an interesting transformation. I've learned so much and I'm grateful for it. And I feel a certain level of more peace in my soul as I have been able to grow and embrace what I've learned being here. Now, like I said, I was an animal lover.
Yeah.
And I was pretty much vegetarian most of my conscious life. Like in high school, I was a vegetarian. But I really didn't understand much more than, I care about animals and I didn't want to eat animals who had been, who were dead. I think one of the first big things, I had never been around birds before. I had never been around chickens or turkeys before. I had no interaction with them. And I was a little like uneasy around them, a little nervous around them at first. But our staff, when I first started, I spent one-on-one time with every single member of our staff. And our animal care team, I don't know how they just they organized, and so every time I was with one of them, they took me to do something new and experience something new. So they really like developed me and
great.
trained me on the job. So I got to see multiple aspects of their work. And so they started to teach me a lot about our hens. And I really thought, I just thought of like factory farming, chickens and egg production and mass production is not good. But backyard chickens and pasture and all that, that's fine. Well, I've learned so much about the strain of the reproductive process for hens. And we could do a whole episode on that.
Sure, yeah, absolutely.
As we should.
As
yeah,
we should.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Coming soon.
Yeah. But as a woman, as a middle-aged woman, as a mom who has birthed, all of those things, that understanding the suffering that they experience because we've bred them to produce eggs so frequently, and that their reproductive systems tend to just collapse on themselves. I knew none of that. And that really changed my perspective. And then you build personal relationships with our residents.
Oh, absolutely.
I am in love with Percy, our rooster. He's my favorite guy. We're not supposed to have favorites, but I have such a soft spot for him. I think he is such a sweetheart. I had never been around a turkey before, and Sabrina was in the animal care trailer for a while because she had some special needs that she was being cared for. And so she just, bum around the trailer. She was at her staff meeting. She knew where the apples were and she'd go help herself.
Pick up the apples the entire time.
And they have so much personality and they have these interconnected relationships where they have best friends and they have, ones that don't get along as well. But so much personality in, the birds and I just had never had that experience before.
Birds, the bird species are definitely some species that I didn't have a lot of experience with before, and coming into the sanctuary system, I grew a great appreciation for birds just because they're so intelligent. They have those social structures. They're really just interesting and unique, all of their own. And so, coming into the sanctuary world, that was one of the animals that I grew a ton of respect for, was the bird species. I just love them.
They surprised me the
They're
most,
so cool.
to be honest, the curiosity.
Yeah.
Who were some of the first bird species that Barn rescued, or who were some of the first residents for the birds that Barn rescued?
Oh, our first rescued rooster, Tracy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Tracy with the EY at the end. But Tracy, as I would say, a broiler hen. And so I remember, we got the first chicken coop. It's not really a chicken coop. It's like a tiny house for just some chickens.
Yeah, and they're amazing coops that we have.
Well insulated and everything like that. And so I remember I called it that day was like the mud bowl because it was raining so much and we were trying to get it off that tractor and stuff like that. But Tracy was amazing. First bird I've ever been around, and very trustworthy in the beginning. I was surprised. Some birds are very tentative at first, but Tracy was, just wanted to get to know you. And Tracy actually, what the lifespan of meat chickens? What is it, like 8 weeks?
Yeah,
8 to
really
8 to
quick.
10.
Yep.
And Tracy was with us over 5 years. Well over 5 years,
Yeah.
which is unbelievable, kind of like unheard of.
Yeah.
And so we do restrict their diet because they'll just eat themselves,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they're genetically supposed to grow. So that was a huge aha moment for me too, was realizing, that these very large chickens were babies.
Yeah. Yeah.
Babies.
Oh, yeah.
And how fast they grew and the pain that would be in its own.
Yeah.
And really the story of all animals in the agriculture system are bred to be, grown exceptionally
Yeah.
fast. And when we send them to the slaughterhouse, most of them are babies still.
Yeah.
And so that's part of the the thing too.
About
is that-
money and efficiency.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Going back to the start of Barn.
Yes.
And so you started in the spring of 2016.
Yeah.
You rescued your first residents that next fall after you had
Yeah.
this like proof of concept. You raised
Yeah.
some money. So who were some of the first overall residents that you rescued? And then where did it go from there as far as like rescuing animals goes?
Yeah. So, I mean, the first rescues were Cora and Henry. And my dad and I, this barn that we're actually recording this podcast in, is over 100 years old. And the downstairs was full of like petrified like manure, up to our knees. And,
Oh, wow.
Yeah, unbelievable. And literally had to take an ice pick and like try to, pick it away, not knowing I could have just used a skid steer, rented one for a couple of days, and like easy peasy. I think my dad wanted to see how dedicated I was, but we were able to get the first corner of the big barn cleared out, and that's when Cora and Henry came in,
Okay.
and then our next resident was Jasper
Oh, okay.
in December.
So you had a couple of cows, and
Yes.
then when you went into pigs.
Yeah, and I mentioned that I never grew up with farm animals, and so what I did was I surrounded myself by experts in the farm animal, sanctuary movement, as well as ask our local community farmers too
Sure.
about common questions. But Farm Sanctuary had an annual conference it's called the Farm Animal Care Conference, where they invite people in to be like, this is how you have a sanctuary.
Sure.
Most of the time, they scared people away after day 2, which is
A
the
lot of
thing you
work,
should do.
A lot of work, yeah.
And so really surrounding ourselves with expert vets and the community and stuff. I was never hesitant on taking our residents up to either MSU or all the way to Cornell if we didn't know what was wrong.
So you said that the old barn was full of manure.
Yes.
Was this at one point a working farm?
Yeah, at one point this was a working farm, probably. Well, when my dad was growing up on the farm, it was kind of a hobby farm.
Okay.
The animals here were for the immediate family and the neighbors. I've seen old photographs of my grandparents entertaining people at the dinner table, and it was just like a good sense of community.
Sure.
I think if I told my grandma, what we're doing on the farm now, I think she would be just so thrilled.
Oh.
She was so nice. She loved sheep. My dad went vegan at 64.
Yeah.
I think she would have gone vegan at 84.
For sure.
If she just knew the reasoning and then Jasper was, our first pig resident. And I remember we had no idea how to I had no idea how strong a pig was. And Jasper, I think, was a year and a half, maybe 2 years. Very people friendly.
So he was already pretty big. when you rescued him.
Yeah. And, but now looking at him, but we just had, we put, they call them hog panels, and just kind of put them in the middle of the big barn downstairs. And the moment I went to Vermont to pick him up in a horse trailer with my dad's Honda truck in the middle of a blizzard, which was not the smartest. But anyways, he got home and he just went in there and just knocked everything down within 10 seconds. And we're just like, all right, well, let's just lock the barn doors. Hopefully he doesn't get in with the cows.
A little bit of a learning curve there.
Yeah. And then, early on, we were all about the buddy system. We didn't want anyone to be alone. And so that's when we rescued June from Indiana.
So June and Jasper were the first two.
Yeah. Husband and wife. And then they got divorced. And I think that played out during the TV show days. They got into a little scuffle. I'm trying to remember then who were next. And I think it was them. And then the donkeys came in that May. From an amazing sanctuary up north, Black Sheep Crossing. They're no longer around, but they're trying to. Cherry and Marty, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
They were getting older and wanted to downsize. Didn't want to separate a donkey family, and donkeys aren't part of the food system or anything. But Marty and Cherry were just great mentors, and they donated a lot of good stuff to us. And we were like, well, we do have room. And so we took in the donkey family, and
Awesome.
they've been here, and so.
We still hear from their granddaughter.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Their
Yeah.
granddaughter still checks
Oh,
in. And yeah.
Amazing. Yeah, such good people. And then I think after that we were like, we need more space, and so the goat shed, where the goats and our sheep are. That used to just be kind of a storage shed. My grandpa used to store his like Model T cars in there, and so that took a lot of work to clear out. And then we got the three amigos and Rose and Ruth. And so we just kept growing from there, and we're like, okay, how can we retrofit this farm to work?
Yeah.
And so and now it's worked, and we're at capacity, and so we're looking
100,
beyond.
150 some animals later.
Yeah. And I don't know how many staff now, 16, 17?
18 full-time staff.
18 full-time staff members.
Yes, and a whole lot of volunteer support.
Yes.
So how long after you gained nonprofit status, you rescued a few of the animals? When did you start seeing volunteers come in? When did you get your first employees?
Yeah.
What was the process like for that?
So it was actually about a year later, so 2017 May, that's when we decided to make the move from Austin, Texas to Michigan full-time. We were able to, over the years of that year of like storytelling and getting a good following and a local community of a few volunteers at that time, we were able to afford paid positions here full-time. So we came up here and we're able to secure that funding, which was like amazing at that time because it just helps. I mean, that's the hardest hurdle to get over for a nonprofit is to secure that amount of funding where you can actually work there full time is amazing.
So when it first started, was your dad primarily the caretaker for the animals until you guys moved back up here? Yeah,
my dad was. I would come back every couple of weeks. I say every couple of weeks, but I feel like it was probably a little less than that. He was kind of, I don't want to say stuck, but he was still a full-time pharmacist at that time.
Oh, okay.
He actually wasn't a paid employee until after May 2017. So he really was our most dedicated volunteer for a while, and still in his own time. He's full-time barn, full life time working at barn. So, but yeah. And then our volunteers, after moving up here, we started to gain a volunteer program, and I have to say, my dad and I were the first ones to start doing that. I mean, it was my dad and I really started. We kind of held, we did the animal care, the vet care, and surrounding ourselves. And then our other hire was Christine Wagner,
and she was the animal care.
Yeah, animal care manager, director. And so, because we really needed someone that had more expertise with the animals. And she just has an amazing level of compassion too. And it was, and we grew from there. I mean, it's more about like, okay, secure funding. Can we afford another staff member to help take care of more of these animals? Because, it's before taking on any animals, you really got to think about the capacity of the staff, the space. Is the animal going to be happy? Are they going to be alone or whatnot? Do we have quarantine space? And like all these things we didn't think about at first when starting, but now it's like this huge process.
Well, and that's where, hiring in somebody who has some experience with animals would help with too, like figuring out like quarantine spaces and some of these things that you might not think about right away, which is nice.
Yes.
And then, so after you got a few volunteers, a couple of employees, did you start bringing in more rescues? And then what was the process like for finding animals to rescue?
Yeah, we started taking in more rescues. I mean, almost immediately. I remember when we first started, I think it was in 2017, around that time in May, we had the founder of Catskill Sanctuary, Kathy Stevens, out here, and with a major potential funder. And to kind of get her approval of is this going to be sustainable? Are they the real deal? Because, a lot of sanctuaries start for the right reason, but they don't have that business etiquette and motivation to get through the tough times.
Yeah.
And she gave us her stamp of approval. And so the process, at that time, funds were rolling in. We had a donor matching donations almost every month, which was
That's
great.
awesome.
Yeah. And, the main goal was, after a few years, like become sustainable. And that's what you want to do, is become self-sustainable over time. But there are times where, there was a natural disaster, whether it was in like North Carolina in 2018. I drove out to Hurricane Florence and would just plug myself in there, and wasn't the smartest thing to do, but we had the van, and I was once again surrounded by experts. And then since then took large animal technical training and did, disaster training and whatnot. But we would put ourselves in disasters, or we would get phone calls. It was all about the phone calls, Facebook messages. And so, you can't say yes to all the animals. So we try to, rehome them or give them a list of sanctuaries, which is like the worst thing. Like, the amount of calls we get forwarded from other sanctuaries is quite amazing. They kind of just rolled in.
Mm-hmm. Were there any rescues that stand out to you?
I would say one that really stands out. It was my first time in a factory farm.
Oh, okay.
It was in Iowa, Iowa hens.
Okay.
And so this was like right at the beginning days of COVID. And this massive farm had to shut down, or they were shutting down hundreds of thousands of hens. Actually wore a body cam.
Oh, okay.
I actually have footage of this. A body cam footage that like police officers wore and stuff, just because I wanted to document it without being obvious.
Sure.
And they were calling all the hens. They were gassing them. I like have footage of them putting them in and the massive mounds outside, and bulldozers picking them up. And that was real. Like, I've seen the videos of that, but like seeing it in person
probably hits way different.
It hits way different. I processed it after we left, but because in that moment we're like, all right, how many can we get?
Right.
How many of these hens can we get into the van? And so, that was definitely one that changed me. Another one that changed me was during filming of the TV show. We were on our way to go pick up the cockfighting roosters from Chicago. But on the way, we drove past a transport truck full of pigs. I would say they were retired sows, mama pigs. And, we have a caravan of people. There was a 12-person film crew following us at all times.
Sure.
And I said, we got to stop here. And we got off on the bridge, and, I had my audio hooked up. They're like filming from afar, so people can't really see. And I'm walking up, and, the amount of screaming from these pigs inside the transport truck, and seeing them. And then, I was like, I have a van here. I have everything I need to take this animal to a hospital right now. Let me take this mom. And I forgot what he said, but I think it was more like, no, this is God's will. And he took one of those deadbolt guns and just right in front of me. And
that was in Chicago?
That was on our way to Chicago.
Oh, on the way.
Yeah. I would say that stop might have been in Indiana. But
so were they at a slaughterhouse, or I guess
they were being transported to slaughter, I think.
And so then what was? So then sorry, this is blowing my mind. So how did you get from seeing them in the transport truck to then the guy with the bolt gun?
The transport truck was already tipped over.
Oh, so it was a crash.
It was a crash.
Oh,
sorry.
okay.
Yeah, I forgot that tidbit. It was a crash.
Okay.
That tipped over, and so and it was on a bridge, and so we turned around off that off ramp and go up to it, and then I saw that. But I remember, I'm mic'd up, and our audio guy's totally mixing the audio, and like he was breaking down emotionally. That just hearing the horrific screams, and that's he doesn't see a video or anything. He's just hearing. And and then I just remember getting back into the truck and just bawling my eyes out. That one affected me quite a bit.
It'd be hard to see.
Yeah, so we didn't get to rescue any of them. It was just eyewitness of just
suffering.
Yeah, and it sucks, and it just reminds you of why we do what we do.
Absolutely.
So So anyhow, there are some good stories in there too.
That's a heavy story right there.
Sure. I don't. A lot of people don't know that one because they got footage and everything of it, but it was too harsh to have on Animal Planet.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Speaking of the show and Animal Planet, how long after you started the sanctuary did the show come about, and what was the process like for getting that show started?
Yeah.
Saved by the Barn, that is.
Yeah. Saved by the Barn, everyone. And it's called the Ark in Russia for some reason. Don't know why. Or like Dan's Ark or something like that.
So they have a different name for it.
Yeah,
in
they have
Russia,
different
huh?
names in different countries. So that started. Over the years, I was getting pretty regular on documenting these vet runs and medical trips, and I did a large medical trip with Mike, the cow from Michigan to California to try to save his eyesight, and that could be a whole episode, that journey of the podcast. But he, So after that, we were invited on the Ellen show while I was out there.
Oh, cool.
And so
cool.
I was part of her like 60th special. And so that gained a lot of attention. And then the Dodo, that creates a lot of digital content about animals. They did a video like, this guy left his 8 to 5 tech job and has no idea what he's doing. He's running a sanctuary. Semi-true. But so that went viral with like 35 million views. And I was getting called from multiple production companies I guess that's a thing. They look for people that go viral on the internet, and they're like, is there a TV show that's possible here? So I actually interviewed about like maybe 5 to 7 different production companies.
Oh, okay.
I'm semi familiar with the process just from growing up in Los Angeles, understanding the entertainment industry. And so interviewed them all. Most of them LA based. I picked one that was out of Denver. And they did all the production and filming for the show Fixer Upper with Chip and Joanna Gaines, and I thought that was a pretty funny show and heartfelt at times. So we went with them, but that process took a couple years in the making, and then basically they took my content that I've shot. They came out and shot a sizzle reel or a sizzler,
like a pilot,
like a
kinda,
mini pilot that's like 5 minutes long, to go pitch to networks.
Okay.
And then the network would buy it. And so Nat Geo and Animal Planet were trying to get it. And I guess Animal Planet had a larger budget.
They outbid
it. 12 1-hour long episodes, which is like pretty crazy for a first season of a TV show,
12,
I think.
Yeah.
Like gnarly. And they were going through a lot of leadership changes at Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers owns them. But now still a lot of leadership changes going on there. And so like we could be on Netflix soon, by the way, which I think would be amazing.
Awesome. For sure.
Viewers.
Yeah.
So and that's kind of how it happened. And then I would say another 6-8 months passed, and then it's May 2019. We were like, when would be the best time to film? Definitely not in the winter. And so it'd be pasture opening. And so from May 2019 for 6 months they shot until November. And
so they went from pasture open to pasture closed. Filming the show.
And it was great. It was very difficult on the staff. I would say on the animal, they respected the animals a lot. It's like we wouldn't force anyone to be on camera if they didn't want to. It's you wait for them, and the film crew waited.
I see.
And everyone was completely plant-based on site, and it was very. I think we planted a lot of good seeds with them. I still talk to a number of them.
Good.
There's still interest to film another show. It's hard when I'm out in Australia, but there's a lot of still interest, and it's crazy how many people came through our doors from that TV show.
Yeah.
Super thankful.
What kind of changes came about from filming the show? Positive and negative.
Positive opportunities, donors.
Yeah.
Meeting brand new people. Our tours were sold out. They were packed. People just really wanted to get to know what we were doing. I think a lot of other new sanctuaries popped up after that show. I think a lot of people started doing their own sanctuaries. And so there's so many sanctuaries out there on the internet. It's crazy when I look on Instagram, there's all these new ones that are popping up. And I hope they're going to opensanctuary.org to get all the great resources they need to run a sanctuary. Huge advocate of them.
They're great. They're
yeah,
awesome.
yeah. That was a good initiative from Love and Arms Sanctuary out in Colorado that started that. that, and then some of the negativities was, we would get so many drive-bys here on the farm.
Oh, sure.
I think we still
a
get
lot
that.
of visitors, yeah.
And then the amount of phone calls of animals in need, and just we're at capacity. During filming, we rescued a lot of. That was the thing, it was a rescue per episode.
I see.
Rescue 1 to 2 rescues, but not every rescue is just one animal resident in need or anything like that. It's like multiple. And that was emotionally hard on me because it was one rescue after the other where I didn't have enough emotional time to process anything.
Sure. Sure.
It was hard.
Yeah.
Especially the North Carolina pig rescue.
Yep.
Retelling Andy's story was hard. It was, but people need to see that we care about these animals as individuals and that we're fighting for them. And to see them, I always say this, to see farm animals in a different light, in that positivity light, seeing them as individuals. And so, I mean, it was great. It was great. A lot of people are like, well, if there was a season 2, would you have done it? And I'd be like, it would have been nice to skip a year.
give it a little break.
And maybe
come back to it.
Get some, because the sanctuary never really got paid for that. We got paid in exposure, and it was like tenfold. It was great. But, that's most reality TV, unscripted television. You don't get, there's no monetary really value in the first season, but that second season would have been like, these are our terms.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
But
the pig barn came from Animal Planet, didn't it? Or
we were already in the process of doing the pig barn.
Okay.
We, those matching donations coming in month to month really helped out for that. We built that, but now looking back at it, and I think everyone agrees here, it's like, why would we put 30 full-size pigs into one building? We did have 4 areas. They clearly weren't big enough, and it's like, I would have much rather have built like a pig village with 4 or 6 buildings so people can decide where they want to sleep and all that.
Well, it's almost turning into that now.
We've
got their new building down there.
And
one side's for the
they have their communal space.
Yeah.
And then if they want to branch out, they can.
And we have all those little huts.
I saw that. You guys got more.
Too. Yeah.
So, And I think that's what's exciting about the sanctuary world, and, where farm animals can live beyond their market lifespan, I guess, which is so sad, is that you understand how they develop and what their needs are as they grow.
Yeah.
Because I mean, pigs, I mean, their bodies start to fail pretty early on, and it stinks, but you learn how they interact with each other.
Yeah.
Their living needs, what they prefer. They prefer their own apartment.
And I always say to people too, we have a very unique relationship with the vets too, because they're learning in a way as well about how to care for some of these farmed animals that are going later into life, because a majority of the animals that they're dealing with are on some of these farms where the animals aren't let to grow old. And so they don't necessarily get to see all that happens with the animals when they grow old. And so we have this really unique relationship with some of the local vets, because they get to see, what it's like for the animals when they grow old, and they can work with them and try different things too.
Yeah, it's really interesting because, MSU is 55 minutes away from us. The amount of times I've been up there and back is insane. But, and then I would also take our animals to Cornell. Our first animal I took to Cornell was Little Dude. Because Little Dude, someone bit his foot and his bone was disintegrating and infected.
Oh, no.
And so, but you wouldn't think that now because he's totally fine and they cleaned it out. But I remember taking him up to MSU and they were trying to clear it out, and a chunk of the bone came out or something. And I was just like, I don't feel good about this. I'm not an expert. And at the time, I was a good friend of the shelter director over at Farm Sanctuary, and she was like, just take him to Cornell. And the reason was because Cornell has had 30 years of experience at that time of working with sanctuaries and going the extra mile for these farm animals. And they've had that experience. And so what eventually happened was MSU and Cornell started talking with each other on getting advice. And so really planting seeds at MSU of no, this is going to happen more and more. You're going to see sanctuaries bringing in these farm animals that are geriatric or have special cases, and you do go the extra mile. And so that's really that was really exciting to see. But and then think about the amount of we've been around for 10 years, and every year there's a new class of veterinarians at the school.
Yeah.
And all those people, all those new veterinarians now understand what a sanctuary is. And we need more plant-based veterinarians out there. You know, if you are a plant-based veterinarian and you're looking to be on a board somewhere,
please,
Yes.
let us
please
know.
email us.
Yes.
And so, it's, we're planting seeds everywhere.
Yeah.
It's exciting.
Yeah.
I miss being here and talking about Barn Sanctuary all the time. I talk about Barn Sanctuary every single day.
That's great.
And it's funny because at my job, it's people are like, when you talk about Barn Sanctuary, you just light up more. We can tell you really enjoy doing that more than and so it's like, I'm definitely passionate about it. And I want to be an advocate globally for us, because we are a global nonprofit. We get donations for multiple countries, and a lot of people follow us from all over the place. And the TV show was global. It aired in more than 50 countries.
Well, isn't it now getting pushed in like South America?
Yeah,
Now
I mean, we're
in, like,
huge in Brazil.
Okay. Yeah.
In Portuguese. Yeah, we had the voiceover guy that did my
I
voice.
saw that.
Like, Instagram messaged me, and he's like, dude, I'm a big fan.
Yeah.
And then I remember in 2020, I was in Bulgaria on vacation for, who goes to Bulgaria for a vacation? I have a friend out there, and I went hiking, backpacking for 7 days. And I went to a hotel, and it was on their Animal Planet.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
It was crazy.
Very cool.
Yeah, in Bulgaria.
Yeah. I thought it was cool when I was in Virginia and saw it on Animal
Yeah,
Planet.
yeah.
TV. You were in a different country and seeing it.
Yeah, and then when I moved to Australia, they have something called iView, which is like Australian Broadcasting Network in their app. They just put the show on their streaming app, and they were airing it on their TV. And I was just like, gosh, man, this content does not get old.
Yeah.
So
We had recently a woman travel from Brazil here for a tour.
oh, I heard about that.
in a snowstorm. She was here in a snowstorm, and she lit up. She was so excited. Her passion was amazing.
Yeah.
She was so, and that's been, I think, a really fun part of this job for me, is to see the depth of excitement and joy and appreciation people have when they come here, and what the show meant to them, and what you mean to them, and what Tom means to them. And when we were in Seattle and Portland for our compassion tour, we, almost everybody we met with there had some question about, a resident on the show.
Oh.
And we went to an all vegan grocery store, and the first thing that the owner said was, I loved when Dan took Mike across the country.
Oh, that's
and
so great to
she
hear.
goes, that was
Yeah.
one of my favorite things I
Yeah.
ever watched. So
Yeah. People enjoy when you go the extra mile for these
Yeah.
and really fight for them. And
yeah.
I know it's hard because we're at capacity, and so it's really hard to build that.
Yeah.
I do see in the future of building out our rescue rehoming program.
I agree. Yeah.
Because we can't rescue all the farm animals in the world. You guys have some good statistics there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We can help rehome them. There's a good organization out in Australia called Till the Cows Come Home, and which is an adorable name. And they're not a sanctuary, but they have a foster network for farm animals, and they rescue hundreds of animals every year.
Nice.
And rehoming them into homes. And it's quite interesting to see,
Well, and I feel like I am still learning about new sanctuaries that are in the area all the time. Like, I've never heard of that place. I'm going to go give them a follow on Instagram. And I feel like there's more and more popping up all the time. Like, I lived in the Lansing area for years and years and years, and didn't know that there was an animal sanctuary there.
Yeah.
It's called Mitten Misfits, but it's right there in Grand Ledge. And I had no idea that they were there until I met them at I went to a vegan meetup.
Yeah.
And they were there kind of promoting themselves as a sanctuary, and just, they're everywhere,
Yeah.
and there's only more and more popping up.
Yeah. I always tell people, like, just Google it. They're in your backyard.
Yeah.
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 They need volunteers. They need donations. Who knows what they need? Like, they need volunteers to help transport. You know?
And I think that's one of the goals of the Compassion Tour too, is to highlight some of these places that people may have never heard of, and give them a voice and give them a spotlight so people can figure out that they're there and stuff.
Can you explain the Compassion Tour?
Yes. So here at Barn, there's two folds to the mission.
Yeah.
There is the rescue and care and rehabilitation of farmed animals, all of our residents. And I will argue that here at Barn, we are doing a phenomenal job at that. And I can argue that stronger now because I know more about the sanctuary world than I had previously. But our staff really go above and beyond to make sure that our residents are getting the absolute best care. And one thing you will hear on the property all the time is the residents are in charge. They don't do things they don't want to do. I mean, sometimes they get, medicine and things they may not want, but their needs are always the forefront and the priority. And then the other aspect of Barn is the advocacy work and the education work, and how do we make it so that farm sanctuaries don't need to exist?
Sure.
Right? That's the goal. We have a long way to go.
I tell people that all the time. The goal of this line of work is to not have to do this line of work
Yes.
anymore. Because
Yes.
then you've done the good job.
Yes, we want to put ourselves out of business.
Yes, yeah.
And it's a lofty goal, but
Yeah.
it is one that I believe is important, and I think we all do. And so, in the history of Barn, the creation of the Saved by the Barn show, the Barn Sanctuary has a really unique position in the sanctuary space and in the animal rights space and in the combating against all of the issues that we want to prevent, like the factory farming of animals. And so we have a platform.
Yeah.
We have a large following that is a privilege for us to have. And
sure.
so we want to use it responsibly and reasonably, and we want to use it to put ourselves out of business.
Yeah.
We want to use it to amplify the good work that's going on around the country. As Dan has talked about, we have national impact and a global impact, and we do advocacy work. And so we want to use this platform that we have to elevate the voices of those doing good work in these spaces across the United States and the globe, to be able to say, if you can't come volunteer at Barn, if you can't support Barn directly, here are local movements you can engage in that are doing work that is in alignment with Barn's values too. I say that the alignment with Barn's values also because I've learned in the sanctuary place that anybody can call something a sanctuary, but there's very different philosophies, and there's very different philosophies on what it means to be a vegan sanctuary.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I've been able to visit different sanctuaries and learn from different models now, and have seen there is a difference. There is areas where sanctuaries don't monitor their capacity and can become their own need for rescue, which you have experience with. There's sanctuaries that I would say are petting zoos. The animals are not in charge. We've seen places where they, we've asked directly, are you connecting this work and these animals when you have people out here to, the bigger movement, to why are the animals here in the first place? Why do we need sanctuaries in the first place, and things like that? And that's just not consistent. There are incredible places that are doing very much in alignment work with what we do here, which is our residents are here, one, to be safe and thrive and cared for and to not deal with suffering, but they're also here to help make that connection of prevention and why are they here? Why do sanctuaries exist? And how do we put ourselves out of business? So the Compassion Tour has allowed us to begin this process of using our platform to be able to uphold that work and get people connected to local, environmental justice causes, to local animal rights policy work and advocacy work that's happening, and to be able to say, here's a local sanctuary in your backyard that shares our values and you should know about, care about, and support because they're doing it well.
Yeah, and one of the things that we've also done especially this last month for Veganuary, we kind of went local to some of the vegan restaurants and businesses that are doing great things to promote them, so that people know, where they can go to grab this good, vegan food. because like, there's a lot of times where I don't even know that a restaurant had popped up down the road, but hey, there's this great vegan restaurant right there that you can go and get some great food.
Yeah.
And so that's part of the goal too, is not only sanctuaries, but then some of these other businesses and organizations who are doing great work as well, and just highlighting them and being able to get people in touch with our mission in
and
different
supporting
ways.
local. Also, on the Compassion Tour, because y'all just got back from Seattle and Portland.
Yes.
Like you can support the local restaurants out there too. I
Yeah.
Yep.
We're just looking at all of our donors throughout the United States and stuff, and I mean every major city, there's a footprint there, and
Yeah.
being able to share and uplift any plant-based organizations is something we definitely want to do.
Yeah.
And find out about, because it's good food too.
Yeah, and that's that's the goal, and we're going to continue going to different places for the Compassion Tour and highlighting some of these organizations, sanctuaries and businesses and stuff, so people know that they're out there.
Yep. And everything that we're doing and looking at nationally, we are doing locally as well, and in the state of Michigan as well. We just kind of roll through things we can amplify in Michigan on an ongoing basis because we have better access to it, and then find, good partnerships around the United States that we can focus into.
And that's the thing, like Barn is in this very unique position where we have the ability to do that as far as like an employee standpoint goes. Like we have the ability to send people out and to highlight these people and these organizations and stuff. And, where there is that need, we can fill that almost,
Yeah. And it was also, in our time in Portland and Seattle, which we'll talk more about in different ways, but in our time in Portland and Seattle, we were able to really connect and create a lot of community and come together as a community. And there were people who care about the same things that we care about, who had never interacted or met before, and then were able to do so within the brunch that we brought people together. And it created connection, it created mobilization, and it also created just a lot more opportunity to raise up and connect people who are caring about the same things in the area. So
local barn chapters. You never know.
Yeah. And we learned a lot too. And, and it was there's really impressive work and advocacy work and advocacy wins that are happening in places like Portland or Oregon, and to be able to learn from their models, to learn how they mobilize people, to learn how they've passed legislation in those areas. You can take that and you can plug and play it in other places around the country and really mobilize.
They can learn from each other.
Yeah.
Yeah. Every state's at a different stage in a way.
Yeah.
And so, amazing.
Have you started the Australian Compassion Tour yet?
No. Well, I mean, I've definitely been, what is it? Doctors for Nutrition or Nutrition for Doctors. I have a terrible memory, but we'll find out exactly which one. They're Australian-based doctors that are advocating for plant-based diets and everything like that. So, I held a meeting with them just to talk, and they had a conference going on. And so I'm trying to put my foot in the door of the animal welfare world of Australia.
Yeah.
And everyone's been really open arms. A couple of years ago, I went to Edgar's Mission. They're amazing. But, I've been chatting with Animal Welfare League of South Australia, Animals Australia, which is like a massive Australian organization, but also international. They have an international arm of it. They fund projects in like Jordan and like these other places. Yeah. It's unbelievable. And so learning a lot from them. I just applied to and got approved to speak at the International Animal Rights Conference in Luxembourg. Mm-hmm. So
when is that?
That is in next September.
Oh,
so
very cool.
That's very exciting.
So September 26th.
Yeah. And so like that was a difficult part about leaving, not leaving Barn Sanctuary, but moving away. It was, how can I still use my platform to be an advocate for the animals? And I know, there's been a couple of good influencers and advocates that came from Australia and stuff like that, and they kind of speak on a global stage, and that's something I want to start getting into is highlighting organizations globally as well, like International Compassion Tour, right? And then highlight other people that are doing important things for the animals. And so
that's what's cool about the time that we're in now, because a lot of it is based online.
Yes.
And through social media, and you can get that following and push your message to
Yes.
so many people now,
Mm-hmm.
and you can reach places that you weren't able to reach before, which is an extraordinary but also kind of scary
Yeah.
time to be in.
Yeah.
Because there's so many other messages that are being pushed out
Yes,
too.
exactly. And I think because the whole fake news thing, and just you don't know what stuff you're going to be targeted with. I think it's always nice to put a smile on people's face,
Yeah.
with some good content out there. And so, yeah, it's really fun to learn, and we can go into whole algorithms of Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, but I have fun playing with those algorithms and learning as they adapt to the world too. So,
Can we also, I'd like to perhaps help create some clarity around your role at Barn now.
Yeah.
And
for
I
sure.
think for a lot of people who don't know nonprofit infrastructure, they may not
that's true.
understand at all what it means for you to be the board chair. And you're here right now, feet on the ground,
Yes.
at Barn Sanctuary. But I want to make it, really clear that you are very much involved in the vision and direction of Barn on a regular basis as the board chair. So
yeah, a little like governance 101.
Yeah.
You got your nonprofit, you got an executive director
That's
/
me.
CEO / leadership team.
Yeah.
But the executive director, Lori here, is employed by the board of directors.
Yes.
We are the ones that go out and
I have 8
find her.
bosses.
Yes. And so the board of directors are all usually volunteer based.
Yep.
You usually don't want to have a paid staff member on the board because that's a conflict of interest. Now that I'm not a paid staff member, I can be on the board. And I want to, that's, Barn Sanctuary has been something I've grown from, just a baby to like where we are at now, where we are out of that startup phase. And that's why bringing Lori on was very important, because you're helping us get to that next chapter. I've learned quite a bit about being at Barn Sanctuary, whether that's as the president or the executive director, or like stand-in executive director. And, I came from the tech world. I worked on my computer and development. I'd rather be around animals than humans most of the time. And so I'm probably not the best person to manage people. I'll do it when I need to, when someone needs to fill in that spot. But long term, we need to hire the experts that know how to do that. And so that's why Lori here is such a crucial team member at Barn Sanctuary. And I keep saying, I was like, I wish I was still a staff member here so that we could work together. And but the thing is that as a board chair, we do work together.
Yes.
Yeah.
We have meetings constantly, and we have board meetings every other month, and committee meetings, and it very much involved. And our board of directors are amazing.
Yes.
They spend hours and hours of their own time guiding and advising Lori and Barn Sanctuary to make sure that our mission is there. It's important to know that there are some organizations that have all their founders and friends and family as their board of directors.
Yeah.
And they actually write in their bylaws, it's like they're protected, they can't be removed and whatnot. And I think that's that's wrong, and being a founder, if you were a startup tech company, that's another story. But, when the goal of the organization is the mission. There's a real thing in nonprofit world, and it's called founder syndrome. And that was the number one thing people would always warn me about. And so it's always been in the back of my mind. And, early on, my dad and I were on the board, because you need 3 board members when you first start.
Yeah.
And so it's like, who else do we know?
Yeah.
But then it got to the time where, it was just like, all right, we don't need you on the board anymore. And at first you're just like, but why? And then you start to think about it. You take yourself away, you take your ego away. And it's like, in case I go nuts
Right.
and have a founder syndrome and have a massive rant online that could jeopardize the brand, the organization, the staff, the animals, the board can vote me out.
Yeah.
The board is a safeguard.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah. They
safeguard.
can, it's all about the mission for the board.
Yep.
Not about the founders. It's about the mission. And so, even as board chair, I could be voted out. I mean, that's the cool thing about nonprofits, and it's I like to believe nonprofit world is zero greed.
Yeah.
But it can be a greedy place in some organizations. But Barn Sanctuary, we have I'd like to say in a way it's an independent board, but I am a founder on the board,
are a founder.
but I'm not a paid staff, and I'm in Australia, so
Well, and
I'm not pushing an agenda or anything like that.
Well,
My own agenda.
you have a passion. You
Yes.
have a passion.
Yes.
And this is your baby in a lot of ways, and you want to know that it's well cared for.
Of course.
And you are continuing to make sure it's well cared for. And that's been very clear since I've been here in what I've respected about you, because I have a long history. I've worked with a lot of different nonprofits in different capacities. I've worked with a lot of different boards in different capacities. I think people sometimes don't understand that, the reason why nonprofits have boards is because nonprofits as a 501c3 belong to the community. Nobody
Yes.
owns a nonprofit. And so your board is supposed to be representatives that can hold that accountability to the community and represent the community that's in alignment with your mission. But most nonprofits are started by founders. They're started by
Yeah.
families. And there is, again, like you mentioned, founder syndrome, which could be its own podcast, but maybe not this podcast. It can be detrimental to the longevity of a board when you don't have a self-aware founder who can recognize where they provide value and where they want to see the org go and grow. And you have given me a lot of space to see things for myself, learn on the ground. And there's been a really, I feel, respectful back and forth around, here's the challenges I see and here's the massive opportunities and positives that I see. And you've always shown up to, with me in meetings and conversations, both supportive and cheerleading for Barn, recognizing where you can support and also recognizing where you're like, this is so-and-so's expertise or this is so-and-so's expertise. And I really respect that a lot.
Yeah, let go.
Yeah. And it's not always easy to do.
Yeah. I mean, and I felt it at first. You get that feeling. I mean, it's but then you're like, no, this is the right feeling. This is, if I didn't care, then I wouldn't have gotten that tiny little feeling of like, I'm letting go, but just like when I first started the sanctuary in 2016, surround yourself with the experts to get this off the ground. That's what we did. And now it's like, surround yourself with the experts that can lead this organization into the next phase for the next 50 years. And so, I love the idea of Barn Sanctuary being around 50 years from now. And, I would love for my family to still be involved somehow, but even if they're not, that's totally fine. And because the mission's protected,
right.
it's all about the mission. And so
But
it's exciting.
Dan, it takes a lot of courage to take the risks and learn as you go and do what you did and put yourself out there the way that you did. And the reason why Barn is not only celebrating 10 years, but going to surpass 10 years as a nonprofit is because of the willingness you were to put yourself out there, to make mistakes, to learn on the job, to bring in the experts. And so you've always demonstrated that in the foundation of the success of Barn. And so I think your pivot into board chair at this time was wise of you and was really, really thoughtful of you. And, for anybody, again, who isn't a nonprofit nerd, the board chair is the highest ranking official of a nonprofit. You are, the top authority and the last, yes or no on something for a nonprofit. And the board chair governs and organizes the entire board. And so your ability to do that, to be fair, to hold us to mission, it's hard to make that transition from staff to board. And I think that you've done it in a really thoughtful and respectful way. And with the same willingness you've done so many things here, which is, I'm going to learn, I'm going to listen to experts, I'm going to, when I know better, I'm going to do better. And I'm going to also stick clear to what's the purpose and what's the mission and what's the point at the end of the day.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, you changed your whole life for this place.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had no idea. I mean, it's just going with that feeling of like the stars are aligning. It's feeling good to do good. And the fact that I have my dad behind me of 110%, and it's crazy. He's like more of an outspoken advocate now than I am.
Oh, yeah,
It's
he's
insane. You
amazing.
gotta actually
He's all
slow
about
him
it,
down
yeah.
sometime. Read the room, Dad.
Yeah.
No, I'm
Yeah.
just kidding.
Well,
But-
he's all about that blue dot.
Yeah,
He's got-
I'm
he's got
very
that blue
proud.
dot that he's
Yeah.
got.
Yeah, and it's and I still love the fact that it's my grandma's still involved in a way because she grew up here.
Sure.
It's on her land, and
Yeah.
it'll always originate from this farm, from where she stood. So it's it's exciting. I'm super proud of Barn Sanctuary and what it's done, and I just had no idea it'd be internationally known organization.
Yeah, looking back, did you ever expect it to be where it is today?
No, not at all. I don't. I didn't expect it to scale so fast.
Yeah.
I didn't expect there to be a TV show. I just knew that I enjoyed telling the stories of farm animals and learning and documenting. And kind of, I'm glad we never sold this farm to like a Walmart or
Right.
something like that. And so it was part of like keeping this place alive too. But it's kind of surpassed that now into something bigger. There's dreams of Barn Sanctuary in 50 years of like satellite locations or whatever, but you got to build that strong foundation, and it takes longer than 10 years to have that strong foundation. But I had no idea it would be this large. Growing up, I'm addicted to learning and pivoting in my life. Pivot every few years, usually. I moved every few years growing up, and I've always gone to a different career after 3 or 4 years. Barn Sanctuary, we're 9 years to going on 10 years now, and it's just like, no, this is going to be a part of me forever.
Yeah.
So it's
cemented in.
It's cemented in,
part
and
of
it's
you.
like,
It's not going to ever not be a part of you.
yeah. And how can I keep it going and help Barn grow? Because I want it to grow internationally, and I think we will, whether that's online or in person. So it's like, and online, it's the online community is what really helped us grow quite a bit. So this is exciting. This is our first podcast episode.
Yeah, first one.
Yeah, it's exciting. And so what am I going to hear this first season in the podcast?
Well,
what am I going to hear from Down Under?
Well, a big part of what we want to do starting out with the podcast is let everyone know kind of who is Barn Sanctuary, a little bit further from you're the name, you're the face of Barn Sanctuary, and we want to let people in on who else is working here at Barn Sanctuary. So we want to highlight some of the employees, some of the volunteers. We want to get their stories behind what Barn kind of means to them, what the mission means to them. Get some some of the background coming into veganism and what that means to them. We just want to kind of build maybe a little bit of an online community, with the podcast and stuff too. So
very organic.
Just storytelling. We want to tell stories of the residents and some of the rescues, and just let people know, who Barn is.
Oh, that's amazing.
And so that's what kind of the name is, Barn and Beyond. We want to highlight Barn, but it's not just Barn Sanctuary. It's everything else that goes into it, the mission and what that means as far as being vegan and plant-based, and how people can kind of help, help us with succeeding in our mission.
And stewarding people into the right direction and whatnot.
And education and amplification, and being able to, highlight some people that, might not get the recognition that they deserve as well.
That's amazing. And you're going to be very, it sounds like, engaging with our listeners too by asking questions.
Yes. And that's one thing that I want to point out now. If you have any questions about anything that you hear on the podcast about Barn Sanctuary, let us know in the comments on YouTube. If you want to send us an email, info@barnsanctuary.org. We'll pick out a couple questions,
Cool.
and then maybe we'll read them out and answer them on the following podcast.
Yeah.
So if you have any questions, let us know, and we'd be happy to answer those questions for you as well.
Awesome.
And Chase, what are some of maybe the 3 pillars that kind of guide our education and advocacy that we do?
For sure. Number 1, animals. Obviously, we want to educate people about the animals, the issue, behind, what happens to these animals in the agriculture system. The other one is the environment and kind of how the environmental impact of the agriculture system, and then health. Public and personal health, and how, that's dictated by everything in the agriculture system as well. So those are the 3 main pillars that we want to educate people on: animals, environment, and health.
Amazing. It's exciting.
Yeah. And this was a great first episode. I
Yeah.
really enjoyed, talking with
Thank you for having me.
Dan, and, sharing the story of Barn Sanctuary and how it started, and, where we're going to go from here. And Lori, you being on the podcast, you're a new executive director here, and you're getting started, and you've made great changes already here at Barn Sanctuary as well. And so, the future is bright, and we're happy to be here. And yeah.
Awesome. All right, everyone. And if and you might be a new listener, and because it's our first episode, but please,
maybe they're all new
please share,
listeners.
subscribe.
Yeah.
Please follow Barn Sanctuary on all of our socials.
Yeah.
Comment. Give those posts a like, and thank you.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you guys.
Yeah, thank you. All right.
Cool.